Welcome to you all today. Thank you very much for joining us for our session on the Action Plan on Synergies. I want to particularly welcome those of you who have come to Portrush. I don't need to remind you of how beautiful the surroundings that we are surrounded by. And I also want to warmly welcome our participants online. My name is Barry Conroy and I work in the EU Commission in the Defence Industry and Space Directorate. My focus is on SME outreach in the context of the European Defence Fund and also on assisting our Secretariat General in implementing the Action Plan on Synergies. I'm delighted to moderate this session in which we will focus on the Action Plan on synergies between civil, defence and space industry. This session will also focus on spin-offs and spin-ins and also aims to raise awareness of and explore the opportunities for SMEs in these sectors. We are joined today by 5 very knowledgeable and highly experienced speakers who will each provide their own insights on synergies between civil defence and the space industries. Just in terms of procedure, each speaker will take 5 minutes or so, and we will then take some questions from the floor. And all in all, the session will last for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. If I may, just a few short words on the action plan. The plan aims to implement actions that will facilitate the integration of advanced civilian technologies into defence systems. This should in turn help provide defence systems with the most advanced technologies. The plan also aims to optimise the use of budget resources and stimulate spin-offs and spin-ins between civil, defence and space industries on innovation and R&D. Using the action plan, we aim to pull together the strengths of civil defence and space industries that can boost innovation and deliver concrete societal benefits. The plan sets out 11 concrete actions, for those of you who are aware, and indeed for those of you who are not, through which we want to tap into the huge innovation potential that exists throughout the Union. Just to call out 2 actions I think that are of particular relevance to the SME sector in particular. The first action is the action that aims to develop targeted measures for SMEs, startups and RTOs to raise awareness about EU programmes and instruments that offer funding opportunities. It also aims to provide practical technical support and hands-on training to provide business accelerating services, showcase innovation solutions and facilitate market entry to the defence space or other relevant civil markets. The second action I want to call out is the action on establishing an innovation incubator and also is involved in enhancing cross-border defence innovation networks. This action also aims to address the current fragmentation of the civil and defence innovation landscape to address shortages of skills as well as equality and inclusion goals. In conclusion, it is important to note that the plan has already been very well received by European Council, by Parliament, by EU defence ministers and indeed by industry. We are now working on implementing the plan and have adopted a whole-of-government approach within the Commission, working closely with all directorates and also with EU institutions. So for now, from me, thank you for your attention, and it now gives me great pleasure to hand over to our first speaker, Mr. Goran Basarak, who is President of the Croatian Defence Industry Competitive Cluster.
Thank you, Barry. It gives me a great pleasure to basically having a chance to address this wonderful SME assembly. I also thank to the colleagues from the European Commission and from the Slovenian colleagues that are organizing this wonderful SME assembly to having the chance to invite me to this assembly. As Barry said, my name is Goran Basarac. I'm the president of Croatian Competitiveness Cluster of Defense Industry, and we are the key industrial association for defense and security industry in Croatia. We have around 70 members currently in our membership, and we are basically formed for one purpose only, basically to boost the competitiveness of Croatian defense industry by enabling them to use the European structural and investment funds and other EU programs that are now actual, particularly European Defence Fund. I have structured my presentation, what we have been doing so far, and what are we seeing in the future, and what are the certain challenges that we are experiencing in the future. So, in the matters of the drive, how we all started, basically this is the drive that was the boosting point of our cluster, and it was the financial perspective 2014-2020. So basically we have seen in this financial perspective that something has happened in the European regulative. So basically that famous annex, basically that was preventing the military industries, defense industries to apply to the European structural investment funds has moved away. There was an opportunity to basically collaborate, to enter into the certain types of investments from the European structural investment funds through smart specialization strategy. And that's when we started forming this Croatian defense industry cluster. Main objectives of the clusters was to seek specialization in what areas, what segments are we good in the defense industry, to seek competitiveness, in what areas are we still competitiveness, also use our key advantages and strengths, and also one most important thing, we needed to find a way in how to learn to collaborate together. Learning how to collaborate together, that was one of the key challenges for, I'm pretty much sure I can say for the all industrial sectors in Croatia. We were not used to collaborate together. We jointly find a solution, and currently Croatia is the only country on the European membership that basically has the security as a thematic priority area in its smart specialization strategy, and area of defense dual use as a sub-thematic area in its strategy. And we are very proud of that because we, as you can see on the pictures, we were the ones that invented the famous torpedo that was famous military weapons all around the centuries, but now we are striving to find civil solutions, some dual-use solutions to these products, and that was the main point in which we were basically focusing our story of cluster. The result was very, very interesting. We were forcing our industry to go into the R&D and I investments, and smart specialization strategy was the key drive. Around 50% of our allocation of smart specialization strategy went to the defense dual use area. It was around 75 million euros that we have pushed into the SME industry, even the big industry to some part, and we started the industry transformation. Particularly, we tried to move them from military to civil area, which we concluded that it's much more perspective. Civil security, civil defense, this is something that was actually happening, and we are trying to push our industry that was strictly military into this segment. We were focusing on strength and basically preparing industry. We didn't know it at that time, but we were preparing our industry for the upcoming programs. Now we are having European Defence Fund. These are certain results. I'm coming also from the company Shestan Bush. We were strictly, basically, producers of military protective helmets, but through the R&D funds, through the smart specialization strategy, we started moving to the civilian sector. We were figuring out if we can provide the best army-based helmet, why don't provide solution in the civil protection? And we find certain projects which could be called a multifunctional protective helmet, which concluded after the 3 years of development, and now we are moving to the civil protection program. A lot of the companies in Croatia in this 15% allocation moved in the same way. We had certain companies that are moving toward the monitoring systems for the border surveillance. Docking is here. My colleague Gortan Peshin, he will tell you about his project, his experiences, also moving from military to civil. Communication, ICTs, all for the civil purposes. The next steps that we are seeing and that are happening right now and that are seen for the all European industry is European Defence Fund. And now we have the obligation to once again conclude how do we fit Croatian defence industry, these 70 companies from the left side, into the aspect of European Defence Fund. How basically we can join these together and find our niches, find our strengths within the European Defence Fund and collaborate together with other member states in that part. One of the key challenges is that Europe is still looking basically for certain priority areas, but I believe the things are moving in the right way, but this is the key challenge for our cluster. And other challenges that we are seeing so far, and we can basically have a chance to discuss on the further Q&A sessions, how to move from the military focus. We are seeing this as an important thing. You cannot basically just direct this fund to the military purposes. We are seeing the spillover effects from military to civilian protection. We have experienced in Croatia earthquakes, floods, things like this. Military is always involved in the civil protection aspect, so they need some kind of new products and services that go both ways. Collaborate in innovation. We have learned to collaborate, but now we need to collaborate in innovation. That is also an important task. Shake traditions and old habits, definitely. We need to move from the old habits, old tradition. There are new challenges that are coming for the Europe. There are new security risks. So we need to move from this strength and align strategies and budgets. Of course, we are trying to force this with our Ministry of Defense and our Ministry of Interior to work together to find the best solutions, to find strategic approach in which we must involve end user and define basically Croatian position in these new global challenges for defense and security. Of course, one of the challenges which is not up to us, but on the European Commission, how do you envision maybe joint European army? With what we are supplying them? What is the aspects and what are the frameworks for this new army, forces and things like that? And of course, one of our key challenges and what we would like to push as a cluster is to enforce industrial networks or collaboration and cooperation. Our cluster has moved our industry and pushed them really forward to this civilian market, to this defense terminology, and we need to do it on the European level, and we are willing to share our experiences, but we need to force the industrial networks and basically to support them in their further growth. So thank you very much. That is all from me. So far, we will continue in the further sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Goran. Now I want to introduce Dr. Larissa Pograc, who is head of the Defense Department of Military Technology Research and Development at the Slovenian Ministry for Defense.
Ladies and gentlemen, first I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to share a few of my thoughts. The role of the sustainable, innovative and competitive European defense technological and industrial base is recognized in the global strategy on foreign and security policy as essential for the European strategic autonomy and credibility of the common security and defense policy, which can also encourage growth and jobs. A stable industrial base requires, inter alia, a functional internal market, guaranteed security of supply, and a structured dialogue with defense industry. Inclusion of small and medium-sized enterprises into defense sector is crucial for increase of strategic autonomy through enhanced innovativeness and investments into emerging and disruptive military technologies. For the first time in history, the European funds are available for joint defense projects in which the role of SMEs is particularly emphasized. Not only the EDF, but also other defense initiatives such as Strategic Compass and PESCO are based on innovative and disruptive ideas. It is the SMEs that can be vehicles for development because they are able to adapt and respond more rapidly than larger enterprises. Artificial intelligence, cyber, new space technologies, biotechnologies, and new technological energy solutions are just a few examples of potential dual-use technologies. How can we then achieve the best and most efficient use of these technologies and find synergies between military and civil use? Being informed and aware of the existing programs is just the first step. We need to overcome the mentality that defense industry is reserved only for the old established players. The majority of innovative SMEs can find its place in the search of these synergies, while being aware that the defense sector is where trust is of great importance, while succeeding quickly is usually not possible. Inclusion of SMEs into defense initiatives and their role provided us, smaller countries with little prominent defense industry, with opportunities to play an active role and a possibility to contribute to European defense in a decisive manner. At the same time, this also enables us to strengthen our industrial base and thus influence the economy in a positive way. Slovenia became independent precisely 30 years ago. However, back then, we were not able to even dream about having an SME 30 years later able to independently produce a mini satellite which is now in the orbit. The world is changing rapidly as do the security challenges. Political will has been expressed, strategic bases have been prepared, now is the time to act. What is required in order to step closer to realized products and cooperation are defense clusters with a clear vision, expressed priorities and ideas which do not wait for a specific order. On the other hand, the ministries have to prepare for challenges. Clearly expressed priorities and ensured financial resources are just a prerequisite. Real challenges are hidden in the capacity of systems to face and realize challenges with support capabilities. Traditionally rigid systems, which is one of the necessary characteristics to obtain defense stability, have to find ways to respond more quickly. Synergistic effects of international defense cooperation can be an incentive and of help. Many new technological areas, such as cyber and artificial intelligence, have blurred the clear borders between civilian and defense sphere. New challenges and related threats are now emerging in new dimensions and have a significant impact on the economy. The COVID-19 epidemic has been a huge wake-up call in this matter. We have to be aware of the fact economic and security interests are merely two sides of the same coin, if I may borrow the title of the non-paper on economic security in the context of the EU strategic compass. It is on us how we will use these opportunities offered and thus pave the way to a safer and more economically successful Europe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Podgrac. And now I would like to invite Mr. Zvonimir Novak to the stadium. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for invitation, for participating here in this workshop. My name is Zvonimir Novak. I'm director in the Ministry of Economy and mainly responsible for the industry, SME and mining activities. I would like at the beginning give you one overall view about industry in Republic of Croatia and also give you one overall view about how government of Republic of Croatia supports SMEs and also our industry in general. So the title of my presentation is Industry in Croatia. On this slide you can see that the large portion of this pie belongs to four main sectors: production of food products, production of metal products, production of non-mineral products, and at the end, production of pharmaceutical products. We are happy to see the trends and the movements in volume of Croatian industrial production. After 2020, when we recorded a decline, now we are happy to see that the trends are positive and that in comparison with 2020, in first 9 months of 2021, we're recording an increase and growth by 7.6%, mainly thanks for those four sectors which I mentioned on the previous slide. Also, it's very encouraging the figures and data about the growth of our exports, because in comparison in 2020, the growth was, in first 9 months, the growth was somewhere between 25%, and in comparison with 2019, which was pre-pandemic year, we record a growth 17.5%, which is equivalent of 2 billion euros. Of course, we are strongly depending about the tourism, but the good thing is that in the value of export of the manufacturing industry in total export is somewhere approximately 85%. Some information about Croatian defense industry. Defense, we have, as Goran mentioned, we have this cluster and the cluster, the companies in cluster are divided in 7 categories. You can see it on the slide. But what is most important is almost 76% of the companies have been classified as a manufacturer, and about 60% of the companies of that cluster is classified as a small company, which means that they have less than 50 employees and less than 10 million euros yearly income. You can see on another slide these companies which got license from the Ministry of Economy, because if you want to be exporter of military products, you have to get license from the Ministry of Economy and Sustainable Development. So just pass through this list. Docking, who is today with us as well, Šestan Vuš, also Goran is representative of the Šestan Vuš, Čatex, Vartex, Galeb, Kroko, Adriamar, those are the companies which has this license for a long, period of time. Few words about the state budget. A few days ago, our parliament adopted state budget for the 2022. We can see that there is increase about 7%, and what is most important for our defense industry, that the Ministry of Defense increase of the budget of the Ministry of Defense is above 50%, amounting about 1 billion euros. So it does not mean that in the previous time we did not invest in our military and our army, but due to the earthquakes and which hit Croatia very hard, and due to the pandemic, we had to direct those funds for other purposes. Within this 1 billion euros, there will be enough funds for purchasing multi-role fighter aircraft. There will be enough funds for investing in maintenance of weapons, in military equipment, and also in infrastructures. Of course, by that investments, we will meet the criteria, fulfill our obligation towards the NATO. At the beginning, I said I will give you overall view how the state is supporting our industry. Significant role have those two laws which I will shortly present. So first law is R&D Project State Aid Act. The idea is and intention is to increase the volume of investment in R&D projects, and also to increase the number of employees who will decide to invest in R&D project. Of course, also we would like to, as Goran at the beginning mentioned, we would like to see collaboration between real sector and our science society. Another law, Investment Promotion Act, which is on force for almost, I think, even more than 20 years. It's a very good measure by which you can get regional state aid if you fulfill some criteria. Criteria one is to invest more than 150,000 euros, and then another criteria is to open minimum 5 working places, and then you can expect to receive, if you are a small entrepreneur, you can expect 45% of eligible costs as a release of paying income tax within period of 10 years. It can be even shorter, but it's important till you reach those 45%. But what is good to know that this 45% will be lasting only till the end of this year. Starting from 1st January 2022, there will be new map introduced, and there will be some regions in Republic of Croatia in which, if you are a small entrepreneur, you can expect up to 70% of regional state aid. Some figures, till now we have 1,500 investment project generating 33,000 new working places and generating 7.5 billion euros of investments. And within this 1.5, 1.2 goes to small and medium entrepreneurs. In the previous 7 years, our ministry was somehow responsible for the priority OSIS 1, 3, and 11. We launched 35 calls with allocation of 1.25 billion euros. It is very good information that we signed contracts with over 3,600 small and medium entrepreneurs. What is in front of us? Croatia got for almost 25 billion euros from EU funds in the next period of time. Cohesion, security and fisheries policy, almost 10 billion. Agriculture policy, almost 5 billion. Recovery and resilience fund, 6.3 billion euros in form of grant. And additionally, if we decided to do additionally 3.6 billion in form of loans. There are some other funds as well, Rural Development Fund, Just Transition Fund, REACT, and Modernization Fund. What is a good thing about those EU funds is not only that our industry will receive grants and loans with a good interest rate, but also it gives them certainty that we will continue with the reforms which we already started. So you can see on the slide the list of reforms only connected with the component 1, that means for the economy. Of course, resilient, green and digital, there are almost in every reform which we mentioned here. Also about the promoting the private investment and capital market diversification and improving access to alternative funding as well. At the end, I would like to mention that European Defence Fund also, again, it is good, not only good for our industry that will get the grants, but it will open the wide space for them to make this cross-border collaboration. Also will enable of exchange and knowledge transfer, and also technology transfer, which they desperately need at this moment. And of course, they will learn how to act and how to play on the external markets. Thank you very much. And when we summarize all those measures which I mentioned, I think that it is very, very good period in front of Croatian industry. So I would like to invite all of you to come and to visit Croatia, not only as a tourist, but as an investor. And if you decide to do that, you can be sure that you will have strongly support from Croatian government, from our agencies, and also from our chambers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zvonimir. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Gordon Pesic, who is Business Development Manager at Ducking, to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to extend my thanks to the organizers for having our company here to be presenters. I would like to congratulate all of the previous speakers for the wonderful presentations. Today we've heard a lot about the future perspective and the future orientation of the funds and the way how the industry is able to play the game in the future perspective. My name is Gordon Pesic. I'm working as the Business Development Manager in company Ducking, but alongside with that, I'm the president of the Thematic Innovation Council in Croatia for the Smart Specialization Strategy for multi-annual financial framework that is happening now in Croatia. Just a few words about company docking. Basically, we are working under the motto, don't send a man to do a machine's job. We are specializing in the field of robotics. Our expertise is the robotics that are for dull, dirty, and dangerous work. Basically, we originated from the field of the humanitarian demining. In early 90s, we established the company for a particular reason, basically to clear the landmines south of Croatia. And we learned a lot from that process. Basically, we learned how to build robotic systems that could be used in civil and defense sector. So we started as the humanitarian demining, but easily we go to the field of military engineering, and that experience has led us to the development of different type of the technologies that are also remotely controlled or have the elements of the artificial intelligence. Here you can see the depiction of some of the products. But basically what we are doing at this moment, 30 years after, a few days back we celebrated our 30th birthday, and today we are one of the international leaders and solution providers of unmanned ground systems for special purposes on a global market, and all of our products are based on innovations in new technologies. From the perspective of what my previous speakers have said, I will give one example through one of the projects that we were dealing with. Basically, from 2014 to 2020, there was a project perspective from the structural investment funds in R&D perspective. So basically, we come up with the help of the Croatian competitiveness cluster. They played a significant role in that aspect because they prepared the industry how to apply for the funds and how to take the funds for the industry. And that was the main reason why we entered into this type of the activity. That was the research and development topic, and we have developed universal hybrid modular chassis that could play a significant role in defense and civil arena. This project has been finished this year. In July, we put it on the market, we commercialized it in some form, and it has been recognized as the project of 20 of good project practice alongside with around 1,000 other projects. So we are in the top 3% of the defense innovations in that aspect. European Commission recognized this as such. How the entire project looked from the perspective of where we developed the platform, and that platform went to a PESCO, CBRN's SAS project. Basically, we have developed the mission module and the front and the rear tool attachments for the CBRN. And now this project will go in the European Defense Industrial Development Program, which will be furtherly developed. And we are going to reach through that project at TRL 8 phase. So here you can see that we have, through these three different aspects of the available funds, we developed from the concept to almost to the commercialization of the platform, of the product as such. We are looking really heavily on the European defense funds, and this is, I would say, a holy grail for our company. We believe that this is a future aspect because it pushes us in collaboration with the other industry players across Europe, and this is quite important for us because we believe that mission-specific modules could be placed on this type of the platform. So the strategic principle that we are following is that all of our technologies are related to topics from European Defense Fund, and NATO projects, especially in the field in ensuring military mobility, CBRNE, and resilience to natural and technological disasters, energy autonomy, waste to energy, and waste to hydrogen type of the aspect. Docking activities are in accordance with the EU public policies, like dual use, which we've heard today. That this is like really focus of the militaries, networking and strengthening the EU value chains, to collaborating among the industry players across the EU level, EU resilience to major disasters, catastrophes. The project that we showed in last slide, basically it's for that particular purpose. Climate change, Green Deal in the field of security and defense, and of course following the common security and defense policy and strategic compass. This is all related to our development efforts, and this is how we are positioning ourselves from that perspective. Of course, with the help of the available funds from the national level or from the EU level. So the next steps that we are seeing for the next, let's say, seven years are the EDF. We would like to set up the call for the, we would like to apply for the call within the improvised explosive devices on route clearance and breaching. We believe that we are going to continue with the CBRNE and emergency response, and resilient critical infrastructure is also part of the aspects that we are seeing our company. So without further ado, I would like to thank you, and this would be all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gordon. And finally, for now, I would like to invite Mr. Tine Tomasic, who is Head of Engineering at a company called Pipistrel.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So how do I compete with esteemed entities that clearly prioritize the defense field, coming from a company who produces aircraft? So you might have seen some aeroplanes on the walls throughout the venue. This is what I do day to day. You might say there's many companies who develop and make aircraft today, especially small ones, which is true, but we also make them all electric. We make aircraft that can fly for more than 24 hours, cross the oceans, and land in Antarctica and come back, which is pretty unique, and you can see how dual-use applications could start to matter a lot. But the company wasn't born in the defense segment, so what I'm going to speak about will perhaps go in the exact opposite directions of my predecessors, and I think it's fine to engage in a broader panoramic view of the segment. So here, after all, we are discussing SMEs and their involvement. I'd like to roll back to realizing what every single great story in humankind looks like. The world is the way it is, something big happens, and the world is better. So the big part, when it comes to SMEs positioning themselves, could be looked at as disruptive, could be looked at as incredible scaling potential, but how can an SME really pull it off? If you have to scale up incredibly and you have to do something which puts a dent into the market, you are not small anymore, right? You have outgrown the notion of SMEs. So what's the recipe of success? There is one, and I'm not sure if we all like it. My crystal ball, if you want, basically says that if you want to succeed with 100% certainty, you just need 3 components. You need an incredible team, you need sufficient time, and you need infinite cash. SMEs don't have 2 out of these 3 components, right? They may have an incredible team, but they never have enough time, let alone money. So where is the space for SMEs? The space for SMEs to be in their SMEs' way of operation is to cooperate, is to find their way in the value generation chain and not necessarily scale up. Some will, many will not. But this is not a differentiator of success. The differentiator of success is where value gets created or not. So what can an SME coming from the space of aviation, like Pipistrel, that I work for and represent today, bring to any other SME, essentially trying to position themselves in a very complex ecosystem, such as a dual-use industry, such as industry managing security, cybersecurity, and different domains? I think we can bring our way of approaching matters. And this is where aviation has shown the ability to deliver very complex projects, like we have seen as well, complex products, in a very reliable way that continue to operate for a long time. This is the true disruption. Bring something that is meaningful that works every single day, people can depend on, and this is how change happens. So what does aviation do perhaps differently from SMEs and small companies in different domains? Aviation is intrinsically an ecosystem. It's not just about the aircraft, it's about the airspace, the management, pilots, maintainers, dispatchers. When you fly with an airliner, it's not about the captain and the co-pilot in the cockpit. There's an army of people making sure you get safely from A to B, which is your expectation, which is what makes transport great. In recreational aviation, all of this is down to a single person, our poor pilot. He has to manage the flight plan, the weather, he's the pilot, he speaks to the air traffic control, he makes sure the aeroplane is not too heavy or too light, and that the maintenance was done adequately. This is what SMEs are in the business context. They can do a lot, but they cannot do everything. So I truly believe, and this is what we stand for as a company as well, is in the power of demonstrations. Let's face it, history is full of amazing ideas which didn't work, because they were just ideas. Only when you try them out, you see where your assumptions were wrong and when you have room for improvement. So it's really about design, test, demonstrate with the relevant public, improve, and then deploy, certify, perhaps, if this is the necessary enabler. But the certification part is an interesting thing, not only in aviation, in other segments as well, because the SMEs are valuable because they defy the established. We can afford to try things that are perhaps too risky for the established. Maybe because we have nothing to lose, put together or alongside, let's say, bigger entities that are established and working inside their bubbles. In order to deploy new technologies, two key things have to come together. And this is, I think, the power of EDF as well. It's the power of the European frameworks. First component is education of the stakeholders. I think every SME has to become excellent at explaining their ideas and why they matter to the broader community. Otherwise, they never get implemented. You can do it alone, but you'll do it much better together. And the second point, besides education, is winning over public acceptance. Every single new technology may also create fear of the unknown. So I applaud all of the initiatives that are bringing people together, not only people from the technological domains, which are perhaps represented today on stage, but also stakeholders that take care of the public acceptance part, making sure that the technologies, the solutions are embraced and utilized. And this is what creates the full circle of great stories of humanities. The world is the way it is, something big happens, also because of SMEs, and then the world gets better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina. And now we have some small amount of time to take questions from the floor, and indeed we can also take questions from our online audience. So if I could, and you've heard from 5 very experienced speakers coming from a diverse range of backgrounds. So please feel free to ask them some very difficult questions that I'll be happy to relate to them. So I'm not sure if anybody if you want to raise your hand if you have a question. Yes. We got a microphone here, please.
Yes, I would have, my name is Birgit Weidel. I'm head of unit of the SME unit in the Commission, organizing this event. I would like to thank you for these presentations. I think it's particularly interesting here because this dual use aspect. And I would like to ask the speakers, in particular Gordon, Goran, and also Tine, what kind of specificities have you seen? Is it very difficult to move in a totally different market? And would you have wished a specific support from public policymakers in this respect? for example, in the area of public procurement or something. Is there something that you would formulate as a recommendation to policymakers? I mean, we are at the EU level, but of course also to the national level. What could be done to specifically address this situation where you want to move to a different type of market players, and so on?
Thank you very much.
All right, I'm going to answer, and then maybe Gordon can continue. And thank you very much for your question. Regarding how difficult it was to move from basically military domain to the civil domain, it took some time, particularly basically to introduce to the industry of the potential of moving toward this sector. As I mentioned in my presentation, we need to basically focus on what we actually had. And we had, as a company, or I can even say it as a sector, tremendous knowledges in the military aspect. As you know, Croatia was in the homeland war. It basically needed to create its own defense and security industry. But after the war, basically, things started to in the peaceful way. So a lot of the companies did not find its way to the competitiveness, this huge global market. And what they know was certain specifics, military knowledges, which could be then, to some extent, pushed forward into the into the civil sector. So you needed to educate them about the potential, the variety of the area. Military was highly closed. As you know, it was dependent on the military budgets that was at some point in time shrinking down. I believe from 2014 to 2020, I believe that more than 10% of the military budgets all over the European level fell down. And basically the budgets were shrinking, the market was going down, and we said to the companies, listen, there's an opportunity in the civil defense, there's an opportunity in the security, there's a much bigger variety of market, the restrictions are not that high to enter this market. You don't need to fulfill these specificalities in the standards and certifications and things like that. So eventually you needed to work with industry for like 3 or 4 years, but then they started to see options. Concerning my company, from which I'm coming from, company Shest & Bush, it was a hard process to basically to convince the managing board, but with good preparation, and we basically said to them with the exact numbers, how big is the civilian market that we can enter, that we can basically form a new niche where the profit could come from. And it happened very easily, and now after the 3 or 4 year of development of this multifunctional protective helmet, managing board is very happy that we are having the new product that is in the completely new niche that doesn't require that much of a standardization and the entry barriers in this market, and that we are highly competitive in this part. So it was a process, but it gone in the right way. Regarding the question of the needs, I would say that definitely if you are producing in this defense dual-use sector, you need to have the connection with the end user. So I believe the processes of innovative public procurement or pre-commercial public procurement are essential. You need to work with the end user. I mean, it's not happening with that. This is a specific type of industry in which you need to have the connection with the end user to justify, to verify your solution. And these part of the processes are highly, highly appreciated. I believe on the EU level, there are needs basically, especially from Croatian side, to basically educate the end user governing bodies like the Ministry of Defense or Ministry of how to basically enforce this pre-commercial public procurement. I see this as one of the roles of the cluster to say, okay, this is how it can be done. That you basically jointly work with us on the development of certain processes, of certain business solutions, certain products in a matter of elaborated framework that is currently set up on the European level. I'm not sure, have I answered your question, but for my part, that maybe Gordon has also certain things.
You didn't leave anything for me to answer. Let me just elaborate furthermore about your question. So, from the engineering perspective, of development perspective, yes, the military side of things is better because you are following through the development process, which is really strict and which is really regulated. From the commercial perspective, military market is really volatile. You have like spikes and going back and down. You know, there is a really long sales cycles. From the commercial perspective in dual use, it's easier to work with the public procurement, and there is no that much of rotation of the decision makers. However, it is good to have this balance between those two, to have the development perspective and to have the commercial perspective from both sides. So this is somehow overlapping. And I agree with my colleague Goran on aspect of pre-commercial partnership for innovation type of the public procurement. This is essential for the SMEs to work with the end users, because this is a quite important aspect in the development process. This is the only way how you are able to test your product and to see the true value, and did you bring the value addition to that. Thank you.
Very much. Do I see anybody else? I see a gentleman here with his hand raised. Colleagues, I'll take one more question. I think we're coming up against our time frame, so much appreciated.
Yeah. Very shortly, yeah. Stefan Moritz, Managing Director of European Entrepreneurs, CAPME. In the defense sector, it is quite challenging to make the people cooperate. You have a very good experience there, Mr. Bazarac. Because, of course, it's a very challenging thing regarding the patents, but also trust. And now we are looking forward to do that on European level. So how can we avoid the closed shop phenomenon, that the companies, the big companies, especially the big contractors, start to use only their supply chain SMEs? And what would you, from your, let's say, experience, do or propose to European legislator in order to accompany this process, because it's very important that we break up these closed shops, that we set up international cross-border European supply chains and involve as much as possible SMEs from different countries. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. This is actually a tough one. First of all, I believe you cannot stop these big companies to basically have their own value chains. It's a process. For the rest of us, I believe the right principle and right approach is to build, like I said in my presentation, these industrial clusters, and basically start working, or association, whatever you mean, and start basically connecting them together. There's now initiatives that are happening, and I would suggest this would be my point of view suggestion to the European Commission. Basically, in this European Defence Fund, you need to have supporting organizations that are basically pushing these networks together. And now initiatives have started regarding of the basically support of the governing sector of the European Commission. I'm basically involved in a couple of clusters. We have joined together. We started basically collaboration based on some kind of memos of understanding. We even have the collaboration agreement with our Slovenian partner, with the Grozd obrambne industrije, like Industry Association of Defense in Slovenia. And basically what we are doing, saying to them, okay, there's a project pipeline in Croatia that are being prepared for the European Defense Fund. This is the companies from Croatia that are going into the European Defense Fund. They have certain solutions, they have projects. Okay, let's match things. Okay, let's see what you are having from your side. Let's see, can they match together? Similar things we are doing with Estonians. We are doing also with Portuguese. We are expecting to work with Denmark. But this is basically, I believe, the answer to your question, to boost this industrial association and cluster to work together, to exchange their project ideas. That is not happening right now on some kind of a framework plan or a program, but the industry started connecting together like initially. And I believe that I would find the role of the European Defence Agency as a supporting also organization to basically support with the program of this industrial cooperation to boost the clusters. There's an association on the EU level, European Network of Defence-related Regions. There's an association there specifically working with defense and security, giving them a chance through the European Defense Agency, a program to boost the capacities of these organizations and to prepare the project pipelines for the European Defense Fund to start working on that. I believe that that would be my suggestion and my proposal for the future steps. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank you very much. And the example you have pointed to, the practical example you have pointed to, is precisely what we're trying to aim to achieve, that cross-border collaboration with a specific focus also on SMEs. There are also measures within the Defence Fund itself to enhance collaboration between SMEs. We also, as you know, have targeted measures under the action plan with a specific focus on reaching out to SMEs and ensuring that kind of greater uptake within the SME sector. So that brings us to the end of this session. I would like to thank again our speakers and to thank you, colleagues, for your very active participation, and also for those of you who joined us online. Finally, I will just pass the floor to our host, who is here. Thank you very much again. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. It was a very interesting discussion. Well done. And I loved your style.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I really hope you've enjoyed the first day. We did pretty well, don't you think? I also hope that everybody who was following us online, that you really felt as close as possible. And I would just like to invite everybody now in the room for some tea, just in front of the hall. And everybody else who's following us online, do try our new networking facility. It's called Wonder Me, and you can follow some easy instructions. Just create your own avatar and then meet all the people and talk to people in the chat room. It's really very exciting. Either way, be sure to be back and in your seats for the European Enterprise Promotion Awards and Small and Mid-Caps Awards ceremony at 6:40 p.m. And I see you there. Thank you.